You guys get in here. This is going to be a bumpy ride. Thank you, everybody, for clicking the thumbnail. This is going to probably be an hour video. That's why I just really and truly need to just get right into it. Well, Rudolph Isley sues brother Ronald Isley of the Isley brothers over the Isley brothers trademark, according to the New York Post. I'm going to talk about it, but let's read this real quick. So Rudolph Isley slapped his younger brother Ronald Isley with a lawsuit over trademarks to their legendary music groups named the Isley Brothers. The legal documents obtained by TMZ, the 83-year-old alleged that Ronald made business transactions without his knowledge, which ultimately ended up costing him money. Rudolph insists his brother's application to trademark the name the Isley Brothers was approved last summer. OMG. This is definitely going to be interesting. And that he's been he's been cashing in on profits ever since. Ron Isley, if this is true, you have not learned your lesson yet. Oh my gosh. Okay, in the suit, Rudolph says he and his brother had agreed to evenly split the band's profits following the sudden death of their brother and bandmate O'Kelly, who died from a heart attack in 1986. Okay. The suit alleges that Ronald violated the pair's agreement and obtained the use of the band's name for visual recordings and audio-visual recordings featuring music and animation. The Ohio native maintains that he was not consulted on the decision. Rudolph is requesting to be reimbursed for half of the earnings and is asking the judge to reinstate his 50% share in the Grammy-winning band's revenue. What? Hold on. What? All right. I have tried to stay away from this story as it relates to the Isley brothers. If you have watched me, then you know I have several videos on Angela Winbush. You know, I've talked about her story as it relates to, you know, Ron Isley, so on and so forth. But now this part I have purposely stayed away from. But now that I'm talking about soul men over here, as well as R&B divas, as I said, if it falls in my lap, it falls in my lap now. So I'm going to talk about it. Right. So as I said, you guys just hold on. This is going to be a bumpy ride because I'm going to explain some things to you. I've been following Angela Winbush's career ever since 1989 all the way up. And then I went back, you know, like once I discovered her, then I went into the back catalog. So I think I have a pretty much broad perspective and an understanding of some of the ins and outs of this Isley brothers. I'm going to call them shenanigans at this moment in time. All right. Take a deep breath. I'm telling y'all, it's going to be bumpy. In 1989, Rudolph Isley left the Isley brothers, okay? Oh, gosh, I put the albums up, so I don't even want to bring them out. But anyway, the Isley brothers released the Spend the Night album in 1989 on Warner Brothers Records. That record was heavily produced by Angela Winbush. It was written and produced by Angela Winbush. And let's just say co-produced by Ron Isley. Rudolph Isley left the Isley brothers shortly after. I don't even think, let's just say after the album was completed. He left the Isley brothers. He decided to retire, from my understanding, and he went full-time into the ministry with his wife, Elaine Jasper Isley. Now, Elaine Jasper Isley is Chris Jasper's sister, I believe. They are definitely related, but I think they're sisters and brothers. Chris Jasper and Elaine Jasper. So at this moment in time, when Rudolph leaves the Isley brothers, now I'm saying he leaves, like he's not kicked out the group. I don't think he signed away any of his rights to the group's name, but we're going to get involved in that because during the late 1990s, Ron Isley found himself back in a whole lot of lawsuits that eventually ended up, him going to jail for. We'll talk about that. So he leaves. Ron Isley's career is in limbo. It's in limbo because from a musical standpoint, it looks like not the Smooth Sailing album, but the Spend the Night album is definitely a solo effort. It says the Isley brothers featuring Ronald Isley, but of course, it's just him. You following what I'm saying? He has no brothers. There's nobody in this band. Okay, let's take that back. There's no one in his group. So Ernie Isley over here, we all know the guitarist, Ernie Isley, pictured here right beside Ron Isley. Ernie Isley, Marvin Isley, and Chris Jasper leaves the Isley's brothers band maybe somewhere in 1980, between 1983 and 85, right? They leave the group for financial reasons. The Isley brothers, once again, they are facing our IRS or tax evasions lawsuits, and they have other financial issues. And then there is an issue with the younger Isley brothers, between Ron and the other younger brothers, as far as who contributed what, and the splitting up of those monies. Could have been some other things, but let's just say that's what the public knows. So now you have Isley, Jasper, Isley. They released a single major hit, Caravan of Love. All right. Now, I know I talked about 1989. You got to follow me because this is probably what Ron Isley is about to say is his defense. That's why you need to listen to this. So when Rudolph leaves in 1989 to go full-time into the ministry, then you have Ernie, Marvin, and Chris Jasper leaving somewhere between 1983 and 85 to form Isley, Jasper, Isley. You're left with Rudolph, O'Kelly, and Ronald. Those three, the original three. Follow where I'm going. Now, let me speed this up just a little bit, but you have to follow this story. During the late 1990s, as I said, when Ron Isley is facing a whole lot of lawsuits, and he's filing for bankruptcy again, Ron and him filing for bankruptcy, I think this affected a lot of the members in the group. It's kind of like that New Edition thing, like how New Edition branched off into several different entities, okay? So you have Rudolph, Ronald, and O'Kelly. Let's do it this way. Rudolph, Ronald, and O'Kelly. Ron Isley defense has always kind of been, but that's a set of Isley brothers, and that's that Isley brothers money. You understand where I'm going with this? Then you have Ernie, Marvin, and Chris, who joins the band. That's a set of Isley brothers money, and so on and so forth. Then Chris, Ernie, and Marvin leaves the group, which leads them back to the original three around 1985 or so. You following me? In 1986, O'Kelly dies. He passes away, I think, of a heart attack in 1986. Then you're left with Ronald and Rudolph. So from 1986 all the way up to 1989, you have Ronald and Rudolph. They released 2 albums, Smooth Sailing in 1987 and Spend the Night in 1989. Then Rudolph leaves. There are no original members in this group at this moment in time. The only person standing in the Isley brothers is Ronald Isley. His career is in limbo. Okay? Like, are you going to be solo? Or how are you going to be the Isley brothers featuring Ronald Isley? You have no Isley brothers. Remember, from 1983, or let's say from 1983 all the way up to 1989, 1990, you have Isley, Jasper, Isley. Ernie Isley in 1990 releases an album, High Wire, on Electric Records. You must get it. I like it a lot. It's just a must-have. In 1990, Ron Isley's career is in limbo as far as what he's going to do creatively. Somehow or another, he reaches out to Ernie and Marvin. Ernie and Marvin, not Chris. Ernie and Marvin. Whatever he says to them, whatever is going on, he brings Ernie and Marvin back into the Isley Brothers fold. The band. Word on the street is that Ernie and Marvin did not even have a discussion with Chris Jasper at all about them leaving the group. Word on the street is that the Isley Jasper Isley's manager went to Chris and told him, you know, Marvin and Ernie, they're gone. Like they're gone. They're out of here. They're back over at the Isley Brothers. Chris Jasper didn't even know this. Now you have another set of Isley brothers. You have Ron, Ernie, and Marvin. From 1991, 1992, all the way up until present day. You following me? Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to keep it focused. I don't want it to be like the last video. In 1992, the Isley Brothers released Tracks of Life on Electric Records. In 1993, they released a live album on Electric Records. In 1994, Angela Winbush then shows up at Electric Records. She releases her self-titled album on Electric Records. So now Ron, Ernie, Marvin, and Ron, Ernie, Ronald. You get where I'm going. Ron, Ernie, Marvin, and Angela, they have made their home at Electric Records. In 1995, Ronald Isley hooks up with R. Kelly. Then we have the Mr. Biggs persona. All of this, just bear with me, it's going to make sense now. And the Mr. Biggs persona becomes bigger than the Isley Brothers. There are some things that are going on at Electric Records. I'm not going to get involved in that. Let's just say, looks like Bob Krasnow he's out the picture. Sylvia Wrong is over there. She drops a whole lot of people off the record label. It's what it is. Them and some other people. In 1996, Ron Isley signs with Island Records, Island Black Music, Hiram Hicks, and all those guys over there. And he releases the Platinum Plus, the Mission to Please album. All right. During this time, Marvin Isley becomes sick due to complications with diabetes. Eventually, and I mean it's very quickly, and I think he gets sick very quickly. Like I can't recall Marvin doing a lot of touring with them. Like even as soon as the record comes out, I just can't recall. Maybe a few dates, maybe he was in for a few months, but Marvin Isley ends up having to leave the group due to his complications with diabetes. Eventually, he is an amputee and he retires from the business. It's going to make some sense. Now, depending on who you talk to, who you ask, the Isley brothers, particularly Ron Isley, allegedly. Let me find my alleged button now because this is about to get thicker than thick. Where's my alleged? Is my alleged over here? If it's not, I need to bring it back up somewhere. But anyways, this is all alleged, even though it's in publications. Like this was a heated thing. Somebody in the Isley brothers camp, probably Ron, and a couple other people, did not like Marvin Isley's wife. I can't remember her name. I don't know why I want to say her name is Sheila. I'm not sure. I'm thinking Sheila is Ernie's wife, but I'm not sure. So don't quote me on that. But there's somebody named Sheila is somewhere around in this story. And I think it's Marvin's wife is Sheila. I could be wrong, but I remember during the time when all of this was going on and he was releasing either the Mission to Please album or the Eternal album, Ron Isley has been quoted in publications as saying they did not like this lady. Okay? They didn't. And the reason why they didn't like this lady, I'm sorry, forgive me, Sheila, if that's you, excuse me, not really. I apologize. The reason why they didn't like Sheila, Marvin Isley's wife, forgive me, allegedly, Sheila was looking around like, Marvin, Ron has all these homes, these cars, yachts. He has all of this stuff. And I mean, in 1996 and on upwards, I mean, they were living large. They was living well. Okay. And she started to question these things. And I think that's what ends up happening with the little rift tiff between them. She was, I guess, whispering in his ear. And I'm not quite sure. I do remember it had to be Sister to Sister magazine. I think Ron said something about this. Sheila was an airline stewardess. That's how they met. Marvin and Sheila. She's an airline stewardess or was an airline stewardess or something like that. But anyway, and they just felt like she was a gold digger. Well, anywho, so that was an issue. Marvin supposedly had an issue with the way Ron Isley was handling, things for them financially. I'm just saying. So this is nothing new with Rudolph Isley right now. Okay, now we're going to talk about all the things that I just talked about, but we have to paint this picture for you. So I'm going to do a brief recap, like just hit the high points so you can understand. So I'm going all the way back to let's go back to now. We talked about Marvin, Ernie, and Chris leaving the group, the Isley brothers, in somewhere between 1983 and 1985. Let's put a little, mark right there. From 1973 to 1983, those years are known as the gold and platinum years for the Isley brothers. Now, you can say what you want to say, and you can argue with me all day long about this. It is what it is. I mean, I'm just going to stick by my opinion, okay? Go back and listen to all of Chris Jasper's solo music, all of it. Don't care if you like it or not. That's not what my point I'm trying to make at all. Go back and listen to Chris Jasper's music. I think he had an album out called Super Bad or something like that, but go back and listen. You can go back and listen to the Jasper Isley's music, Caravan of Love and Insatiable Woman. Go back and listen to all of that. And after you listen to all of that, then I want you to go and I want you to listen to Ernie Isley's High Wire album. You probably don't have to do much listening to it, but I want you to, if you can, find the lyrics. That's all I want you to do. Just listen to just read the lyrics. You can say what you want to say all day long. But from 1973 to 1983, the Isley brothers' sound is definitely Chris Jasper and Ernie Isley. In my head, I'm saying that Chris Jasper handled all the music and Ernie Isley wrote all the songs. They came together. They wrote and produced all of the music for the Isley brothers, in my opinion, allegedly. But what ends up happening is that it's not good for business. So all of the Isley brothers put their name on all the songs. It just made good business sense. Chris Jasper, to this day, I have never heard him say anything ill about that situation. It is what it is. People understand that that's what happened. It's contractual. It is what it is. Keep moving. But I'm making my point. So now that Chris Jasper, Ernie Isley, and Marvin Isley are out of the picture, what's happening with the Isley brothers, the original three? Do you see what I'm saying? I think they released an album in 1985. It goes nowhere. So now Ron Isley needs some producers. He does. Like Ron O'Kelly dies in 1986. And Ron Isley's career is in limbo once again. It's just what it is. It happens. The highs and lows of being a recording artist. It's not shade. It's just what it is. Depending on who you talk to, who you ask. Ron Isley hears the song Your Smile by Renee and Angela. He's intrigued. He's like, oh, okay, whoever wrote that song sounds like they could be, good for, our upcoming album. It seems like they kind of have a good feel of what it is that we do, our music. That might work. Now, Benny Medina, allegedly, I'm just saying, even though this is public, but I'm still using allegedly. I mean, it's public knowledge, Benny Medina, who's the executive over at Warner Brothers Records, the record company that Ron Isley and Rudolph Isley are signed to, are signed to. He reaches out to, depending on who you talk to, who you ask, some folks say it was strictly Angela Winbush he reached out to. Some people says that it was just Renee and Angela, Long story short, short story long, on that end, it's definitely a riff tiff in the Renee and Angela's camp when Ron Isley steps in. That's all I'm saying. Follow with me. I'm going somewhere. All of this copyright stuff is going to make sense. I got to build you up to this story. Renee Moore allegedly is not happy at all. He's not happy. And now there are allegations that he was definitely physically abusive towards Angela Winbush. Oh, baby, that lawsuit was something. I might talk about it now. Y'all done dropped this in my lap. I was trying to leave this stuff alone. There was definitely some stuff going on. I mean, publicly, as far as between Renee and Angela is concerned when they started working with him. Now, I don't know. It is what it is. I'm not going to speculate because I don't know. But I will say there are some people out there who definitely says that Renee put those hands on Angela Winbush. I mean, definitely put some hands on her, and I'm not quite sure. I don't know why, supposedly he had did that. And here's my thing. I see, now I don't want to talk about it. See, I'm a fan of Angela Winbush. I really am. So this really bothers me to talk about this because, first of all, I've never heard her mention a lot of things about this. She'll hit the high points and keep moving. And out of respect that I like this lady so much, like she's just such an inspiration to me, I only say things she has said. But now this guy here is him. It's him. It ain't nobody else in the group. To me, it's him. Like I'm talking about it now. Whew. So I never understood the rift that really happened between Renee and Angela for Renee to allegedly be physically assault her. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I hear those things happening in other groups, but I've never heard Renee and Angela, like, well, people have downplayed Renee and Angela's involvement with each other only on a, what you want to call it, a professional level. They've never said that these two were romantically linked. It was always downplayed. But now, if you're putting hands on her like that, y'all got to be involved somehow or another. And I think, I could be wrong, I haven't looked this up, but I believe Angela is older than Renee, maybe about, I don't know, maybe up to 5 years. She's not that much older than Renee, but I think she is probably maybe 3 to 5 years older than Renee. But anyway, for him to do that, when this man steps into the picture, makes me wonder, y'all had to be really like involved with each other for this man to do you like this. I'm talking about Angela. But now there are definitely some claims out there that he did this. Now I'm just about to just tell y'all, like, this is about to get interesting. I hate to talk about it, but it's about to get interesting. So when this happens, the final straw, like when Angela is like, hey, you know what? I'm out of here. I'm done with this Renee and Angela situation. Like, I'm done. I'm out. I'm done. Let's just say Angela made some moves, you know, from a legal standpoint, where she was like, hey, I'm leaving this group. I'm leaving this group. Allegedly, you know, if you have, you know, physically assaulted someone the way, the caliber that he did. And she said in her unsung, just think about it. I hate to talk about it like this. But if she said she had what in her unsung, she had bruised ribs and a concussion. I'm going to repeat that. If she said she had bruised ribs and a concussion, she said it in her song. Like I said, this is a weird story. So anyway, so Angela filed her lawsuits. All right, and I'm thinking, well, let me change that. I don't know who filed what lawsuits first. I don't know, but I guess what the point I'm wanting to make is that Angela definitely plans her exit. Like she's done. She's out of here. So she's done. She's out of here. She has already made some legal moves for herself. Well, let's just say this lady has her legal team. I'm talking about Angela Winbush. All this is going to make sense. I want y'all to listen to me now. Her legal team definitely was not a joke. Those whoever was on her side legally, I'm here to tell you, baby, they planned, and I mean that 7-year litigation, they knew exactly what they were doing. That's what I'm trying to tell you. They had to have known. So just based off what I'm gathering in this story, like I said, you got to listen sometimes and read between the lines. And I'm going to give you a little bit of evidence, like public information, that if you look at this, then you'll go like, he's probably not really too far off. I'm talking about me. He's probably not too far off. So she has a lawyer. She's got her lawyer, Angela has. And if she's accusing Renee Moore of physically assaulting her, you have to prove it, right? So the first step in Angela's legal defense, I have to prove that this happens. That's number one. You remember she said in her ensemble, that was like, well, we'll give you bodyguards, this, that, and the other, so on and so forth. She said that, right? It's in her ensemble. She was like, no, I'm not going back. So I don't know if she filed a restraining order against Renee Moore or not, but I'm definitely saying, like, she definitely is saying this man definitely had put some hands on her. Two, now that this has happened, the next move is, after we prove this has happened, they shut that Renee and Angela machine down. The lawyers did. Why do you say that they shut the Renee and Angela machine down? Well, if you think about it, nobody recorded any of Renee and Angela's music from 1985 all the way up to 1993. During that lawsuit, who recorded any of their music? Well, I'm going to tell you who did, and I'm going to tell you then after that you didn't hear anything. The first song that shows up that involved Renee and Angela was on the Isley Brothers' 1987 Smooth Sailing album, Come My Way. The Renee and Angela song, Come My Way, shows up. Renee and Angela did it first. The second time a Renee and Angela song shows up was in 1989 on Angela Winbush's The Real Thing album, I've Learned to Respect the Power of Love. I don't know what happened after that. I just remember back in the day on BET, I think it was Video Soul, right? It was Video Soul, and doing the top of the second hour of Video Soul. If you guys remember out there, do you remember Belma Johnson? Belma Johnson was a guy who would come in and talk about the news, like the latest in entertainment news back then on BET. And I remember Belma Johnson's reporting saying that Renee Moore had allegedly sued Angela Winbush. It was either for $250,000 or $2.5 million in 1989 or 1990 or something like that. And basically was saying that the Renee and Angela song, I've Learned to Respect the Power of Love, he didn't get credit for. Now, if you've ever been into an Angela Winbush concert, you would know Angela Winbush has definitely said herself, he must have wrote it in his sleep. Like she says that during her concerts, you know, like I'm not telling you, and I do my best to get to an Angela Winbush concert at least once a year. I mean, great show, a great show, at least once a year. So anyway, long story short, short story long. The machine is shut down. You don't hear any more Renee and Angela music being recorded until that lawsuit was over with. That's where I'm going. So it seemed like to me during this time, Angela Winbush's attorney, hey, you know, he did this. Like, we have evidence and proof. This really and truly did happen. I can't find anything. I've never found anything that stated that he did or he didn't. Do you understand what I'm going? Because back then, everything was pretty much hush-hush. All right? We didn't talk about stuff like this. The next thing that I'm saying that happened is they shut that Renee and Angela machine down. I really and truly do believe that. So when the guy in the Angela Winbush's song, I think is his name Bobby Watson? What's that guy name? Isn't that Renee's Moore half brother? Well, anyway, he said that the attorneys always got paid and they always got paid large. Well, I really truly don't think that mattered after that lawsuit. Like, you know, once the lawsuit ended, I think that once their music got back on the up and up again and people started recording it, I think that both Renee and Angela won out in that. They just paid a lot of money to do what was going to be inevitable. Split it in half, like, you know, the royalties and the copyrights. But anyway, they shut the machine down and then they got prepared for that long, hard battle with, you know, between proving who did what. All right, you said, well, why did you talk about this in the Isley Brothers story? It's all going to make sense. So then Angela finds herself being the Isley brothers producers now. Ernie and Marvin and Chris Jasper, or let's just say Chris Jasper and Ernie, they're gone. The Isley brothers need a producer. Angela Winbush already has a good track record, even though Renee Moore is alleged saying she don't know what she's doing. She can't do X, Y, and Z. Now, from my understanding, the executives over at Warner Brothers Records calls her into the studio and went into their offices. And they pretty much flat out asked Angela, can you do this? And Angela's like, you think? Yes, I can do this. Like, she's like, yes, like, I'm good. I can do this. And of course, Angela Winbush goes on to, produce, write and produce the Isley Brothers Smooth Sailing album, their Spend the Night album, their Tracks of Life album, their live album, their Mission to Please album, her Sharp album. She produces artists like Stephanie Mills, Sheena Easton, Body. Oh gosh, her album Sharp, The Real Thing, her self-titled album on Elektra Records. She gets she signs a very lucrative publishing deal. And she also has 2 production deals with Atlantic Records and MCA Records at the time. So I'm here to tell you, y'all, I don't understand why Angela Winbush does not get as much clout as she does in the music industry, but this lady was definitely the thing back in, 1988, 89, 90, and so on and so forth. Ron, I was like, everybody wants to talk about maybe Chris and Ernie in the Isley Brothers story, and then y'all skip all over Angela Winbush and then go right into R. Kelly. Angela Winbush held this thing down from 1986 all the way up to 2001. She held it down. All right. It's a shame that she's a female in this business. And if Ron Isley allegedly is treating his brothers like this, imagine how he treated his wife. And then she's a female. I hate to be sexist and all of that stuff in this commentary, but just really and truly think about it. Like, if the brothers suing each other, how you think he felt about, if business stuff came down with his wife? He didn't care, allegedly. That's why I'm talking about it now. So anyway, we're moving right along from that, and we get all the way up to 1996. And this is when it's about to get interesting. In 1996, the Isley brothers go over to Island Black Music, Island Records, Hiram Hicks, and all those guys. And is it Chris Blackwell? I'm not sure about all of the names, but he goes over there. Island Black Music at the time in 1996. This is when Karen Clark Sheard released her first solo album, Finally Karen. You knew that record was all over the place. You have the Isley Brothers, Mission to Please. You have Drew Hill. You have Luke over there. You have a lady by the name, I think, of Mona Lisa, another guy by the name of Myron. The Isley Brothers have relaunched T-Neck Records through Island Black Music. Angela Winbush is the A&R coordinator over there, and they signed Kelly Price. The Mission to Please album is a slow build, but eventually it gets up to Platinum Plus status. And in 1995, you also must remember that that's when the Mr. Biggs character comes into play. All right. The persona is bigger than the Isley brothers. And everybody's like, Mr. Biggs, Ron Isley, so on and so forth. And he rides that way with the Mr. Biggs character. Now, remember what I told you in the top of the story. I'm not going to repeat about Marvin's wife and everything about that. You should have a good gist of what this story looks like. So by the time, let me say this, all right, before we get to 1996. So Now that Angela is the producer for the Isley brothers, I don't know how this lawsuit came up, but a lawsuit came up between Ron Isley and Michael Bolton. Some people are reporting that maybe it was Angela who said, "That's your song, man." There are some reports. I never believed it. I'm not sure if Angela really and truly is the one who said, "These folks done copyrighted, done infringed on your copyrights." I don't know. But word on the streets is that Ron Isley definitely, checked it out to see if it was really true. And he didn't get any credit for the song "Love Is a Wonderful Thing" on Michael Bolton's album. Depends on who you talk to, who you ask, or what publications you read. All of this it was in public publications, you know what I'm saying? Ron Isley says, "Hey, you guys, this my song," And Michael Bolton and everybody over there is like, "Nah, man, no, it's not. We didn't do anything," so on and so forth. "Man, that's my record. Hey, just give me, pay me my money, run me my money." They didn't. He sued. He won. And when Ron Isley won, he just didn't win. I mean, it was a nice setup. It was a nice, it wasn't the kind of money that jingled. It was the kind of money that folded over and over and over again. Mr. Ron Isley, I mean, the money folded, baby. There are some rumors out there that allege that, and you can look at this up, I just don't know for sure, so I'm giving you a ballpark figure. It was from $5 million to $15 million that he was awarded damages for the song "Love Is a Wonderful Thing." From $5 million to $15 million. There are rumors out there that said when the judge finally, issues the verdict, or the jury finally issues the verdict, Ron Isley goes out of the courtroom going cha-ching, cha-ching. Well, hey, I mean, 5 to 15 million. Come on now. All right. All of this is about to make sense. Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh. Got tears coming out my eyes on that one. Long story short, short story long. They end up filing an appeal, Michael Bolton and Sony Music. Yes, that's right. Michael Bolton and Sony Music had to cough up some money. And that's when it gets interesting, because this is like 1991-92. Do you follow where I'm going? 1991-92. Now, you have to keep in mind, Angela is going through her legal issues with Renee Moore. Now, Ron Isley has his court case, going on with Michael Bolton. And somehow or another, I'm just going to say around 1994, 1995, Angela Winbush's lawsuit comes to an end. She's victorious. She's victorious. She's victorious. Then you see that the Renee and Angela catalog comes back up. Like, they shut it down. Now they done open it back up. People are definitely diving into the Renee and Angela's catalog. I've said this many times before. I'm going to say it again. Adina Howard is the first person I know of that made one of their songs, "You Don't Have to Cry," in 1994, because the lawsuit ended in 1993. So in 1994, you get Adina Howard, then you get, all the Avants, the Jay-Z's, the Notorious B.I.G., like everybody is in this catalog now. So as I said, from a financial standpoint, yeah, they probably paid the attorneys a whole lot of money to do what they should have done level-headedly. But after the lawsuits was over with, I'm saying they recouped all that money, because they got some more gold and platinum out of those songs again. So then you have Ron Isley, whose lawsuit has come to an end as well, but his is about to go into appeal. Now, here's another thing about these lawsuits. Renee Moore wasn't happy with the verdict. Oh, no, he wasn't happy. Allegedly, he continued to sue his attorneys. And he continued to sue other people who recorded the Renee and Angela music, allegedly, because sometimes his name would be left out on some of the credits. Yeah, it's just what it is. So the lawsuits continued. Now, Ron Isley is over at Island Black Music. He is on, he has his T-Neck Records. Everything is going on. Marvin Isley's wife is saying what she's saying about him. They signed Kelly Price. And here's what I didn't like about Kelly Price's Unsung. If you have stuck around with me this long in the 45 minute, then you probably know too that Kelly Price sued Ron Isley. She sued the heck out of him too. So I think she released her Soul of a Woman album in 1998. I believe so. Could be wrong about the dates, but I'm going to say it was 1998. She released the Soul of a Woman. Now, something happens. I don't know if it was the way in which the Isley brothers build, was their shows. When I say build, I'm talking about how they build their shows. I don't know if it was the fact that Ron Isley was the headliner and Kelly Price was the opening act, or so on and so forth. But there was a riff tiff in that, as well as some other things that I guess Kelly Price was saying she was not being paid. She sues him. She sues him. If I'm not mistaken, I think, I'm not kidding about these numbers. I think she ends up suing him from anywhere between $5 and $15 million too. She sues him. Now, at this time, and this is between 1996 and 1999, I keep saying this. I want you to understand. I don't want you to forget anything. You have the lawsuit with Michael Bolton, the $5 to $15 million judgment is now being appealed. You have Marvin Isley's wife saying that, hey, these people are living large. Where your money at? Supposedly, Ron Isley is avoiding his taxes, allegedly again, like he's not paying his taxes. Allegedly, you have Ron Isley, who is cashing, allegedly, his dead brother's checks. Kelly Isley, he's cashing them, the checks. Do you understand where I'm going with you? Going with this? All of this is from 1996 all the way up. And then what you have is now that Kelly Price is suing him from 1996 to 1999. Ron Isley's record label, T-Neck Records, and Island Black Music executives are going toe-to-toe. Ron Isley is accusing Island Black Music of trying to take his artists. Don't know if that's true or not, but anyway, so they go through their riff tiff. Eventually, T-Neck Records loses its distribution with Island Black Music. Loses it. Keep in mind, in the midst of all of this, and we're wondering where Angela Winbush is from a creative standpoint, and even though she's behind the scenes producing, what people don't know, some of you don't know, is that Angela Winbush definitely has a recording contract with Island Black Music. And people are definitely looking forward to Angela Winbush releasing music. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, they're looking forward to it. If Island Black Music has revived Ron Isley's career, then they're definitely looking for the same thing to happen for Angela Winbush's career. People are waiting. So much so that everybody's like, what are you doing? What you waiting on, Angela? What you waiting on? Seriously. And guess what? Well, Ron, he got all this stuff going on and he wants me to, do X, Y, and Z and so on and so forth. People are definitely in Angela Winbush's ear saying, baby, sister girl, I know, but this man, you need to put out some music. You need to do this. And she was like, no, it's good. Everything's good. He wants to do this. Do you understand what I'm saying? And her son, she's even alleged like she put her career on the back burner. You also have to understand in her son, she says by the time she realized what was going on, it was too late. Like by the time she realized all of this and his, letting everybody know it's your thing, you can do what you want to do with it. She's figuring all of this stuff out. And she says in her unsung, by the time I realized I should go into the recording studio to record music, it was too late. It was what it was. So all of this stuff that is happening, she ends up eventually, saying, hey, listen here, man, I'm in a marriage by myself. We got the IRS on us. We have, the taxes. And then you out here showing everybody your thing. Like, I'm out of here, man. Like, I'm in a marriage by myself. But it gets better. Because before that happens, guess what? Yes, you're right. He files for bankruptcy. Now, I keep throwing this $5 million to $15 million tab around because that seemed to be the golden number. Because he files for bankruptcy anywhere between $5 to $15 million. I think it was $5 million that supposedly he was in debt to. Like all you know is this next day you looked at publications and there it was. He's filing for bankruptcy. Now, if he's filing for bankruptcy, that says something about what the Isley brothers catalog. Guess what Michael Bolton and Sony Music tries to do? They attempt to purchase the Isley brothers catalog. They made a bid for it. I mean, if you have the catalog, you ain't got to pay that money. You own the catalog. So now Ron Isley is going through this purchasing of the catalog. Like Michael Bolton is trying to purchase the Isley brothers catalog after this bankruptcy, during this bankruptcy. Depending on who you talk to, who you ask. I don't know how the Pullman Group comes into this picture. There's a guy, I think his name is David Pullman, Pullman. He's known for, I don't know, I guess in the entertainment industry, he's a guy that is known for taking celebrities' music catalogs and issuing out bonds or something like that. And if they're having, I guess, some financial difficulties, what he would do is he would pay those, however the bonds go. I just say it to you that way. However these bonds go. But anyway, so he ends up purchasing the Isley brothers catalog anywhere between $5 and $15 million. Okay. Now, according to Ron Isley, Michael Bolton and Sony Music, what they're basically trying to do is slow down the inevitable. They were going to have to pay up. But it definitely looked like they were going to take his catalog, like buy it and take it. Back in the day in the late 1990s, like 1998, 1999, 2000, 2001, 2003, before we got the internet the way it is now, there were actual blogs. Like there was a blog that was just really and truly tailored towards Michael Bolton and him suing, trying to bid for the Isley brothers catalog. Now, Ron Isley is filing for bankruptcy at this time. And some members, from my understanding, did not want to do this. They did not want to file for bankruptcy. I don't know if all of them had to file. I'm not quite sure, but you have to keep in mind, we're talking about the Isley Brothers catalog. And whose catalog? Keep in mind, you have Ronald, Rudolph, and O'Kelly. Then you have those three with Marvin, Chris, and Ernie. Then you have the original three again. And then you turn around and you have Rudolph and Ron. And then you turn around and then you have Ron, Marvin, and Ernie. And now you just got Ron and Ernie. You see how he's probably trying to say, well, I didn't trademark what you are on. I don't know. This has to be his defense at this moment in time. So anyway, long story short story long on that. Some of the members didn't want to. I'm not quite sure how Angela Winbush ended up in this as far as from a creative standpoint, because you have to keep in mind that from 1987 all the way up to 2000, all the way up to, let's just say, 1999, she's the producer, which means that she's writing and producing for the Isley Brothers. That's their catalog. Or is it her catalog? Do you understand what I'm saying? You never know what kind of deals people have made. So you can see there's a big mess in the midst of all of this Isley Brothers story. And it still gets good. Kelly Price is eventually released from from T-Neck Records. She's eventually released. They release her. You know, I guess they hold on to her as long as they possibly could, but she's ended up being released from the record company. I'm not quite sure if Ron Isley had to pay her any monies at all, but you know how they get in the business. It's like after that happens, like, oh, well, we still close. We still cool. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? We closer now than we've ever been. That was the, statements that was going out after all of this. And it is what it is with Kelly Price. Eventually, Michael Bolton and I do believe Sony Music had to pay up, but they never really talked about it. I don't know what happened after all of this. All I know is that the Pullman deal does happen. All right, it does happen. It does take place. Michael Bolton and Sony does not own any of the music of the catalog by the Isley Brothers, not to my knowledge. Unfortunately, Marvin Isley does pass due to complications of diabetes. Angela Winbush files for divorce from Ron Isley. Like, I'm out of here. I'm out of here like I was out of there with Renee Moore. I'm out of there like I am out of there with you. She's gone. So now it's just Ron and Ernie again. But he has Ara Kelly as a producer now. I don't want to say it this way, but I will say it this way. When Angela Winbush leaves the picture, like she's out of the picture, she's gone. Everything falls apart for Ron Isley, if you ask me. It does. Like he's on shaky grounds, and it's not good. It's not good. He's still going to court. And the IRS now has come up with a new story. There's a new story in this Isley brother thing. Like, after it seemed like they went their separate ways. And now I'm thinking about Angela Winbush, when Angela Winbush says in her Unsung, she says that when she files for divorce, she basically had to recoup and build up her finances again, after the divorce. Now, for a person such as myself, and listening to her say that, reading between the lines, it sounds like to me whatever legal dealings that Angela probably found herself in with this man as as his wife, right? It seemed like to me she coughed up some money. And she probably paid some of this man's bills too. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, they probably split some things down the line because, as I said, they had property and business dealings and all of that stuff. So probably whatever they could deal with at that moment in time, they did. They parted their ways. But here's something that Angela Winbush has been quoted as saying when her ovarian cancer went into remission. And she was quoted in magazines as saying this: "I'm steam moving ahead like Tina Turner #2. I don't get bitter, I get better." And she also said, "I can do without the cars, I can do without the houses, and I can do without the yachts," is what Angela Winbush said. She was like, "I can do without all of that stuff. I am going to sit back, relax, take care of myself, take care of my mother, and take care of my aunt." And that's exactly what she did. She did that. She was like, I don't have time for that. And she went back to the road. She went back on the road, touring, so on and so forth. And depending on who you talk to or who you ask, some people are saying they still had some business dealings together. And I don't know. I can't prove this one right or wrong. When she was doing her shows, because she still had to pay him out of her performance money. Like, I guess they still had some kind of contract or whatever going on. So whenever she would go out on stage, she had to give some of that money to Ron Isley, from my understanding. That's what, something people have said. I'm not quite sure, but I will say this. I will tell you this much. Ron Isley, eventually, after he got married, she still performed with Ron Isley. After Ron married Candy Johnson, Angela Winbush still shows up at some of the concerts performing. So that must be true. I don't know. But I do know one thing, having attended several Angela Winbush concerts, she don't mind talking about them too. She's like, yeah, his mistress wife. Mm-hmm. Yeah. she don't mind. She would. It's funny. But yeah, she don't mind. She'll dig them up in a heartbeat in their show. She talk about babies. But anyway, moving right along. But I will say this one thing for sure. It really and truly does look like this woman, cares a lot for this man. I'm talking about Angela Winbush, because she is definitely still around as far as supporting his children and his grandchildren. Like, she definitely still is a grandmother and a mother in her eyes. Like, she's like, it is what it is. Even though she has moved on and married again, Angela Winbush is like, I ain't got time for that. I ain't studying that. I ain't got time for it. She knows where her help comes from, is what I'm saying. She ain't got time for all this foolishness. That's why she's my girl. That's my woman. Anyway, so now it looks like they have cooked up another strategy for Ron Isley. This time, Angela Winbush is out the picture. And now they're talking about, not only are they still talking about this tax evasion, they're saying that Ron Isley has allegedly asked for monies up front for his performances. Like, he wants to be paid up front in cash. And that he's been hiding money from, the I, the R, and the S. That's the new one now. And they have promoters allegedly going in on these, a part of their defense, saying, hey, listen, yeah. Well, on their side, rather, saying that, yes, he asked for money up front. We paid him money up front, in cash. He asked for those things. So let's just say go through the court. It is what it is. They eventually sentenced Ron Isley, I believe, to 5 years in prison. We're going to skip all of that. We're an hour into it. We're skipping all of that. Now, in 1996, 97, 98, the Mission to Please album is doing pretty well. Like, it's doing good. Somehow or another, they end up meeting the president of the United States at that time, Bill Clinton. All right. So when Ron is sentenced to jail for tax evasion, some of the things Ron Isley tried to do to stay out of jail. Number one, his connection with Bill Clinton. Oh, well, he tried to use that clout to say, oh, well, 2001, 9/11 happened. And so now he's basically saying, well, maybe we can go and do some tours and some shows to support of, the war effort. And, that way, he could get some of his sentence either time served or just have his sentence gone completely. The judge is not buying that. Like, no. Then Ron Isley ends up having a stroke. Angela Winbush finds out about the stroke from word on the street. She goes over where he is. He's performing somewhere in the UK. She hops on a plane. She's over there. I don't think he's definitely not married at the time. I don't think. And pretty much moves everybody out the way. Like, I don't have time for this. I'm not studying. Forget you guys and you girls. Like, forget everybody. Like, this man is about to be nursed back to health. And that's exactly what she did. She makes all kinds of arrangements and everything for him to be nursed back to health. He gets better. And you look up, and guess what happens? Ron Isley marries Candy Johnson. Angela Winbush is no longer in the picture again. He marries Candy Johnson. Well, guess what happens after that? Candy Johnson ends up pregnant. So now the new scheme is, well, I can't go to jail, Judge, because, well, I'm married and I just recently got married. And not only have I gotten married, I'm expecting a child on the way. All of this is happening during his sentencing. So from what I hear, the judge was like, well, you can't be too sick. You're about to be a papa. You're about to be a big papa. You can't be too broke. You just spent $5 million on a wedding. This man, Ron Isley, got married during his tax evasion sentencing. A $5 million wedding to Candy Johnson, his now wife. The wife allegedly that he was messing around while he was married to Angela Winbush. Well, they 17, 20 years into the marriage now. Everybody knows about it by now. It's just what it is. Do you see what I'm saying? And then Ron Isley ends up, of course, having to serve time in jail for tax evasion. And I said all of that to get up to now what? This Rudolph Isley claim. Yes, I did that. I said all of that to get back up to this and to say, this is interesting. Because Ron Isley is saying he's going to court. I find it kind of shocking, and this is the part that I find shocking out of all of this, is that he filed allegedly for the claim. When did it say he filed for the claim? Like in 2000 and something. Last summer, Rudolph insists that his brother's application to trademark the name the Isley Brothers was approved last summer and that he's been cashing in on profits ever since. Last year. Do you not understand what I'm saying to you guys? He did this last year. According to Rudolph Isley. So you mean to tell me you did this and you didn't even consult your brother allegedly? So what does Ernie Isley have to do with this? That's why I said all that to say this is going to get interesting. And he's determined that he's going to go to court. And then we're talking about people such as In Vogue had the same issue. In Vogue with the Funky Divas, Terry and Cindy versus Max and Dawn with the Funky Divas trademark. The ladies of Climax have the same issue with Cheryl Cooley. This bothers me. This bothers me on so many levels because this is just not bandmates at this moment in time. It's family. I hope I didn't leave anything out. I think I talked about everything. But this is family. So if he filed for trademark claim, Ron Isley did, is Ernie listed? Or is it just Ron? But I don't know. I'll revisit this story again, I'm pretty sure, as it continues to, come up. But anyway, on that note, don't forget, over here at Pepe La View, we believe in putting our behind where our hearts desires to be. And whenever I leave my mother's presence, she always says, baby, remember, I love you, but God loves you best. And I am so looking forward to seeing you guys next video. And until then, you all know what you should do. Take care of yourselves out there. Talk to you